I forgot to click the record button, but I don't think that meditation was meant to be recorded. There's some meditations that when we do them, it just happens. I don't even think about clicking the record button. It just happens. So bringing yourself back into the room, I invite you to drink water, lots of water. I'm going to do the same now, please. Dharma, we need you back into the room. The light in me bows to the light in you, all of you. The light that you are. Purifying the body, purifying the body. It's like detoxing the body, flushing it. And I'll make another attempt tomorrow morning instead to do the spine so that you walk as your divine instrument. You are walking as your divine instrument, completely illuminated today with this light that you are, the essence of who you truly are. Beautiful beings of love and light. We will dive right into continuing our discussion from where we left off yesterday. And today we're going to move now into the right mindfulness, which we've been covering as we talked about every single part of the Eightfold Path, because we went into the right effort and mindfulness, and then the right effort, we dived into food and all of the efforts and things that we can do to help us along the way, especially when it comes to our communication, the energetic vibration that we show up from when we're interacting with or speaking to others as we move through the world. The right mindfulness. The right mindfulness also includes mindfulness of the teachings themselves and not violating them. It's written across all religion, in every book, the Bible, the Quran, the Gita, doesn't matter which one. We do not violate the teachings. In fact, it's one of the reasons why the Quran and the Torah was never really rewritten. So being mindful of the teachings, honoring them, they all point you in the right direction, showing you the way along the path as you evolve or as I say, on spiral. It's like, it feels like on spiraling to me. And I say the goddess Kali is the guard of this realm. When you start to move into the higher realms and mindfulness, and you start to experience the deities awaken, and you start to channel or experience their great wisdom, and they start to share with you tiny little bits of their power, teaching you how to use them. You have to earn them. But the whole journey is about earning those powers. So things happen in the body, every part of you that you're not even aware of, that's been happening the whole time. As you evolve, after a certain level, you start to move into at this level self-mastery in every realm. And I feel like this is probably the longest phase of the journey itself. Because this is where we really focus. We practice deeper levels of focus, deeper levels of discipline, deeper levels of concentration. And we start to deepen in our practice as we start to expand in our wisdom, in our power. We start to tune in. Even though we start from the beginning, we're already tuning into the elements, which is what we are. We really, really start to deepen in our practice. And at this level, how you interact in your relationships with every part of life itself, people, nature, your relationship with people, your relationship with nature, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with all of existence, and how you move through the world. All of it becomes purified as you learn, correct, redo if you have to, You're in perfect self-awareness at that point. You can see so clearly. And then the right samadhi, which is, to me, the Christ consciousness integration. And I'm stressing on the word, stretching the word integration, because really you start to operate everything, your whole, every time something happens, I say it feels like an hourglass because I've just been flipped upside down again, that's what it feels like when the shift starts to happen. In the self-mastery phase of your journey. Integration in the higher realms, or meditative absorption, is what they refer to this in Buddhism, the right samadhi. And sometimes it feels like an even tougher part of the journey because you're really concentrated mind, you know, trying to be human and take care of your day-to-day responsibilities. Maybe reassessing at that point which direction you're going to go, or reaffirming it, choosing. You know, the Bodhisattva's choices are usually at that point in their practice. Where's the opportunity? Because there is like nothing. Everything in existence looks perfect. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. And there is no separation, no nothing. Depending on your environment, you can stay there, I imagine. But in the human realm, when we have responsibilities like raising our children, you know, every single Bodhisattva, having been there, have chosen to come back. Because how could you experience such peace, such a space, and have so much wisdom and not want to come back and share it with all of humanity? Because it's like you're on this journey and oh my God, you found that place, and there is a place. Of course, it's natural to want to come back and share it with humanity. Sometimes when I'm in deep meditative absorption, I would think about my daughter, Charlotte, and the world that I want to leave. And the benefit of this wisdom to all of humanity and what it can do for all of existence, the plants, nature, the trees. Oh my God, I cannot stress the trees, nature, how we treat each other, how we show up for each other, like so much packed in there. That's how I come back out of that state every time. My beautiful little, I call her my little Bodhisattva, my beautiful little Buddha. So the right samadhi is about, in summary, meditative absorption, concentration, and unification. Unification of mind, body, spirit, whatever you want to call that. I know when I share, sometimes I'm not like a fan of words because they're a label. And I feel like when you put a label on something, you know, it now puts a almost like a constriction around it. But I do also realize that word itself is a vehicle, right? It's a vehicle. So I honor and deeply respect the word, the ability to use words as a vehicle to share this information, share with everyone, help anybody I can help along the way, as many as I can help along the way. I'm looking at the time because I know our meditation was a little bit longer this morning because we did some beautiful healing work. And I have a lot of stuff that I plan to cover. So let's see, I'll keep going how far we get, because I'm excited to start to move into that next section. So the right samadhi, and that wraps up the the Eightfold Path in that regards for now. So a brief recap. Remember, if you're a beginner just starting to meditate, the first ego lie is you cannot meditate because the ego mind is disillusion. It creates stories that disillusion you to believe something that is different from what's actually happening. So it's like you have a skewed perception, or your perception haven't yet evolved. It's another way to look at it, right? But the fact that you're sitting there, closing your eyes, and being in awareness that there's so much noise up there or in there, wherever there is there for you. You've already experienced a little glimpse of awareness, right? Because you're aware of it now. It's when you're not sitting in meditation and not even aware of what's going on and you're moving through the world in ignorance, thinking that you know everything or you already know this, and you know what's happening, like I used to know everything in my own ignorance. And I used to think I was a leader and I can lead people. It's like the blind leading the blind, isn't it? I humor myself on this journey. It's full of humor. So the right mindfulness is critical. How you move through the world in relation to your relationship with everything is critical. And most importantly is doing your practice. Doing your practice so that to help yourself remain in that state of pure awareness. That's why pure awareness is an embodiment, because when you start to think of all the things that we talked about as we relate it to day-to-day life, on the path, It is embodied. So the ego, the master of storytelling, as you know, for those of us who are joining today, and I think Shirley just had a connection issue because she may have just dropped off. I was recapping this for her. Well, it's for everybody. I'm reading Chris's comment. He's sharing in chat. He's laughing. I love your humor this morning, Christian. That's awesome. Yes. I don't want my ego to think that. Oh my goodness. Yes. So meditation helps you to see and understand the egoic state of mind. We'll wait for Shirley. She's back. So meditation helps you to understand, see and understand the egoic state of mind and the state, which is the state you're in any given moment or time. And it helps you to see and understand your pain body, all of the imprints, and also the conscious states of mind. You get to see and experience them, embody them. So the egoic state of mind operates on illusion, mostly on illusion in the beginning, until you start to teach it, you know, or correct its view is another way of looking at it, right? Because you're saying, no, no, no. That view that's generating that feeling that I'm having and whatever is going on at that moment of time is being generated by the pain body, emotion. That's not really what's going on. So the person that made me feel anger or sadness, it's not because they made me feel anger or sadness. That's just an angel that I'm grateful for because it's my mirror. That person, like energy, just passing through my dimension and showing me something within myself that needs healing, that needs to be evolved. Rather than do what we would normally do, catch on fire, I say. It's like catching on fire. Getting upset with them, judging, pointing fingers. You see how that goes, spiraling backwards, downwards. And the thing about the pain body, and this is why being in awareness is so important. As you evolve and you start to dissolve programs, you can also create new ones, will try to create themselves. Yes. There was a period of the journey where I could see pain bodies starting to form based on how my egoic state of mind, or based on how my mind in general would see a situation. So this is how a pain body is formed. Based on how I perceive what's going on, if I don't have a pain body, if I'm not in pure awareness and I'm not aware, so if I'm not in pure awareness and I'm not aware of the fact that I'm standing here or sitting here, wherever I am, I'm interacting with people, that what my mind is seeing is an illusion and it's trying to form a story, pain body story. So Shirley said she keeps losing signal. A pain body story it's trying to form. By being in awareness, I can stop that in the process. So can you. Again, with practice, as you come in, when you come into awareness. So the white elephant, well, the black elephant becoming white, illuminated. You can see it as it's approaching and it's arising. And you can correct its pathway. By saying, you know, I talk to my ego all the time. Thank you very much for showing me what you think is going on, how you feel. But what you're seeing is not true. And then I tell it the story or the right view. So you start to learn how to correct the pathway before it forms a new pain body. Because our entire lives, we've been training ourselves 24/7, right? In these patterns of pain body creation without realizing that what we've been doing. The mind is wired to do that. Our memory, every part of our system is wired to do that. So the first thing it will try to do is what it's naturally accustomed to doing, isn't it? So it's very pattern-like. And as you journal your way through this journey, you're going to start to see the pattern. The way in which an emotion arises is very pattern-like. The way a thought arises, it's very pattern-like. And there is a pattern within the pattern, because between your egoic state of mind and the subconscious programs, there is always a pattern of arisal. But we won't get too deep into that, because now, you know, just that's just the analyst in me. There, I just give my dog a bone. You become aware of the patterns. You experience the pain body through sensations, right? And its arousal through the ego's view. And sensations or emotions are sensations or attention demanding feelings, thoughts that drives behavior, right? Doesn't it? And then there is, you know, I have a diagram. It's very simple. It's 3 lines, literally 1, 2, 3 lines. I should put it into the PowerPoint, but see, 3 very straight lines, if you can see it. So the line on top represents the ego, which operates on illusion. The line in the middle is a subconscious emotional mind, you know, the pain body mind, right? And then there's a primordial state, the subconscious emotional mind, which I represent as another line below that. And there's a reason why, right? And that primordial, that emotional subconscious mind, because we all came in with the foundation, beautiful emotions of, you know, the ability to feel anger, sadness, happiness, right? Trust, fear. That's why I use 3 different lines to represent my ego diagram. Because it's easy to work through with awareness to understand what's going on. Because it can be complicated work at times. I've gotten stuck quite a few times. So as we start to dive in, I think deeper into the egoic state of mind, whenever I can, of course, I will do my best and use myself as the example. It's easy. I have so many stories. I can write a storybook the size of the Bible, probably. Speaking of Bible, so this is a little sidetrack. We're doing good for time. Look at this beauty. Look at the size of it. I couldn't tell you how many years I've been in search of this book. And I know, I was shocked. And the universe sent me on an adventure, an intuitive adventure too. Because I found this. First of all, so here's the story. It's funny. I'll tell a story. I love stories. So I walked to the bus stop in this part of Vancouver, and there's an old man with beard. He looks like Gandalf from the Lord of the Rings. Yesterday I was howling. This man that looks like Gandalf, just the look captivated my curiosity, and I'm like staring at him. Of course, he could see me like looking at him. He came out of this bookstore, this old bookstore. In fact, it looked kind of messy, like, you know, like it's so old you could see. And the man was like old, you could see like his skin, you know, but he looked like Gandalf. And I'm like, huh. So the first time I saw the store, that was what I remembered. And so 2 days ago, on Thursday, as I'm waiting for the bus on my way home, an angel, I call this girl Angel, tall, beautiful girl, standing at the window, just looking at the books that was on display in the window. I thought, huh, there must be something interesting over there, because they have old record, you know, covers of some couple of old records in the window. So of course, natural curiosity pulls me over. I looked at the window and I saw like how old some of these things were. And all of a sudden I felt like And then I remember this guy, Gandalf, looking guy. And all of a sudden, I felt like, maybe I should forget that I wasn't even on a timer. It's so funny. So here's a funny thing. I don't do time. I had really nothing to do after, just come home and continue my work. But I felt guided to go into the store. I said, you know what? I don't have to catch the next bus that's coming. I mean, there's going to be a lot of buses. And sure enough, before you know it, I entered the store. But I didn't know what I was there for at first. I was confused as to why I was in the store, because wall to wall, like so close together with so many books, started to grab my attention. I'm like, oh my God, like, I felt like I was in an adventure of some kind. And I'm like, why am I here? I know I'm here. I could feel I'm here for something. There's a book that I can feel the reason why I walked into the store that I'm here for. But I didn't know right off the bat what it was. And then all of a sudden I walked by a shelf and, they had all of these old books, like, oh my God. Anyways, I walked by the shelf and I think it's at the Book of Moses or something like that. And I thought, oh my God, all of a sudden it came to me. I pretty sure, and the more I thought it, the more I felt it, this Bible that I've been looking for is in this store. That's why I'm in this store. And I'm looking at all the shelves, and of course the shelves didn't have any labels, no category. They were just randomly put together. So it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. So I decided to walk back to where that shelf was again and feel into this energy a little bit more, because I'm like, and the store was hot. Oh my God, it was so hot. There was no fans, well, there was a tiny little fan, but yesterday we had a giant heat wave. It was really hot. We're still having a heat wave. And I moved back to where the shelf was and I'm like, yeah, I can feel it. I'm definitely here. That Bible is somewhere in this store. I can feel it. And so I walked around the corner and I'm looking, my God, which aisle am I going to go down next? And I was walking by this aisle and suddenly I felt like to come back. So I reversed, walked down the aisle, and I started looking at the books on the shelf. And I could feel myself getting closer because I was getting more and more excited as I was reading the titles, of what some of these books are. Of course, I want to read all of them. And then I got to this one shelf and I started combing my eyes through all of the names of the book. And I couldn't see it because the shelves are all so tall and I'm like this short. And so I'm looking and looking. I was like, no. I couldn't even move from that spot. And then all of a sudden, I don't know why, I looked up and there on the very top of the shelf is the book. So I grabbed the little ladder thingy, climbed onto it, and I started taking down, a bunch of them. There are different versions. And as soon as I read, it's the original teachings of the Christ. So this is the original translation from the language of Jesus, Aramaic, in English, the first. And it's both, the Old and New Testament and everything in it. The real Bible. Oh my God. I've been searching for that since I was a child. That was my adventure yesterday. And of course, the man, give me a discount, universal discount on my purchase, because I purchased this and 2 other books. And we had the most fascinating conversation. And he said, huh, because he was curious about me going in the store, picking up specific books, you know. So we started talking, you know, I shared where I was born. He was very curious about where I was born. And he says, sounds like you have a university education. So I pointed upwards and I said, yeah, university. That's the one I went to. That's my university. Or university, really. It's in every direction, right? So yeah, yes, Christian, I can send you the information that you're asking for. So I started reading this book last night. So needless to say, today I'm tired because I couldn't stop. Well, I started since yesterday afternoon and I was in awe, just like, oh my God, oh my God. That's what I kept saying in my brain. Oh my God, oh my God. So this book has me on a little bit of an adventure right now, which I have to be mindful about because I'm holding space. I'm in this energy state. So I have to make sure I'm not being distracted because I can always read this book anytime. But the findings and the information that I've put together so far is like, oh my God. And I learned something very important. And I call it a humbling lesson for myself, you know, because there are parts of me that become upset over the fact that there is so much wisdom out there, all of these teachings of the Buddha and the Christ, and all of these beautiful beings, and they weren't necessarily available to us. And then what we have is like, you know, the written version of the Bible and so forth, right? And, you know, like the telephone game, everything becomes lost over time, right? And you guys remember the story of when I went to the church and I heard the pastor reading on Easter, and everything he said was perfect. I'm like, oh my God, that is truth. I knew what he was speaking was truth. Then I went to another church and I heard the pastor preaching, and he would read from the Bible and then translate it to the people of what this Bible is saying. And he was completely off the mark. And I'm like, oh my God, he's crucifying the teachings of Jesus, literally. And the people there not knowing, this is the thing, not knowing that what they're being taught is incorrect, are just eating this information up. Right? So there's so much that have gone on, you know, in the beginning of time that sometimes, yeah, I do get a little agitated. But then it makes sense, of course, and then, you know, that just like zaps any agitation or anger because it all makes sense, because even the people that made mistakes are blind, right? That's why we make mistakes, because we're blind, right? We can't see the truth. So we're always only operating from where we're at in our state of consciousness in any given moment of time, aren't we? As we are. So my humbling experience with finding this book, and as I'm starting to read this book, is something that I didn't realize until last night, which was, you know, because again of this upset, I always blame the kings and, you know, the people who translated the Bible and blah, blah, blah. You know, the ego mind can really have a lot of fun with that. Skewed misconception was my humbling learnings, because what I learned about language is how difficult or challenging it can be to translate from one language using English words into another. And so that resulted in having to leave out some words, having to try and use another word to try and substitute, you know, what that Aramaic word probably means. And of course, and the translators, oh my God, from what I learned is they were so focused and very, very, you know, diligent in their work of translation, because that was their purpose. You know, they really, really served as best as they possibly can. And what really cracked me up was this story. Today we're gonna just story, one more story. I can't help it. I read the back of the Bible, right? You know, just on the little summary, right? Of this beautiful being that translated it from Aramaic to English. And he made a correction in the Lord's Prayer. It totally made sense to me. I'm like, oh my God, this is why I couldn't understand it. And something was off. My intuition kept telling me something was off with it. I'm going to share just the one verse that he corrected. Because what we say is like serving our suffering or the devil, for lack of a better word, versus what we are supposed to be saying. And then the second one that really made me howl last night as I'm sitting in the chair was this one. I'm going to read, okay? So in Matthew 19:24, verse 19, you know, 24, which the King James Version translates, and again, I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. I couldn't tell you how many years I tried to figure out why did Jesus use the example of a camel going through a needle, because even that in itself seems impossible. So first my little mind thinks that way, you know, but then trying to figure out like what this really means. Well, from the correct teaching, the Aramaic, what it actually is supposed to say, right? Again, I say to you, it is easier for a rope to go through the eye of a needle. So me trying to fit this camel and wondering why a camel, you know, like why not a thread? You know what I mean? So it turns out it was supposed to be a rope than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. Oh my God, I was howling so much last night, just laughing at myself.
This came from
makes sense. Go ahead, Victor, you have a question.
This came from that book, right?
Yes.
Wow. Please, like, send the book cover. I want to see if I can find it.
Yes,
that statement has always like got me.
I know.
Always.
Yes, I hear you, man. Me too. Hang on, I'm going to pause quickly and just pull my blind down because the sun is here. The sun has arrived. Hold on.